Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast. Today, we are coming to you from Loughborough Fire Station in Leicestershire. Now, when I speak to a lot of friends and family about the fire service, they think about ringing control and ringing in a 999 call, and they think about the firefighters out there on the trucks. But we know in Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service, with our mission statement is safer people, safer places, that our biggest tool in prevention is education. So did you know we actually have an entire team of silent heroes called community safety educators, and today we are joined by Sophie Smith and Mike Tiago from Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service, who are going to teach us a little bit more about how they make the community safer. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Mike, how are we doing, brother?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Good to meet you, my man. So, Sophie, what on earth is a community safety educator? For people out there that are completely unfamiliar with the term, what do they even do?
Okay, so firstly, we're community educators. We had to change our name recently from community safety educators to community educators. And
what's the difference? Why are we taking the safety out? Surely it's all about safety.
Because the police term was child sexual exploitation, which was a CSE,
all right.
and we were CSEs.
We do love our mnemonics, don't we? We get so caught up with mnemonics and acronyms in the fire service.
Yeah, so something had to change. So we're now community educators.
Because we couldn't lose that education part. And again, I refer back to a lot of people see the fire service as people are out there at the tip of the sword, getting the equipment out, putting out fires. But actually, as silly as it will sound, we don't want to be doing that, because if that happens, something's already gone wrong, and the greatest tool we have is that education for prevention aspect, and that's exactly what we're doing.
And that's what we do. Our job really is to educate the community and try and stop these things from happening in the first place. So we go out and we advise about having working smoke alarms and just general fire safety in the home. Our roles changed a lot over the years, and we now target more vulnerable people, and there's so much more to our role, but primarily it's prevention.
So, Mike, we talk about vulnerable people there. Some people might think it's a little bit harsh, and all of us, to be fair, in a certain state. If you're put in the wrong environment, I can be vulnerable in the wrong environment. If I'm not aware of the dangers that are around me, then surely everybody's vulnerable. So what does that mean? How do we classify somebody as vulnerable?
Yeah, 100%. Exactly as you identified, everybody can be classed as vulnerable, but it's looking at that vulnerability. So we work on a scale rating of 1 to 6. So somebody would come in on a referral basis. So we work in a multi-agency approach. So we work very closely with EMAS, East Midlands Ambulance Service, and with police, and they refer somebody into the fire service, into the community education team.
So like the operational crews will refer somebody?
Yeah, so operational crews, you may have been to an incident, Pete, and when you're at the home, you're noticing little things. Yeah. So you're noticing that there's no food in the cupboards and the windows are rotten.
Right, okay.
And you're a little bit worried about that person in the home. You've dealt with that incident. You've put that fire out. That person's safe in that instance.
Yeah. But you're picking up on all those smaller things.
Yeah, something might be happening where you think, I'm not quite happy with this. If I walk away, and the way we look at it is, you can fix that problem. So putting a smoke alarm in identifies that issue's there. Yeah. That a fire started, the smoke alarm sounds, and the person exits the home. But unless you change the vulnerability, that's just going to happen over and over and over and over again. So if let's pick something at random. Let's say someone's an alcoholic. Yeah. They smoke and they often fall asleep and drop that cigarette on their lap or on the chair, and this is causing fires.
And you see those things, because I see them every now and again, where you see the fag stains on the edge of the sofa, or even on a small collection on the carpet next to it, and you
cigarette
flag in the head.
and you're picking up on that sign. Yeah. So you could be going to fire calls every month for the next 10 years. Yeah. But unless
we used to, back sort of 20 years ago, people would go to repeated, we'll say, offenders or vulnerable people, or certain communities, because there's certain behaviours really ingrained in certain communities as well, and we'll sort of get onto that. But now we've kind of had that realisation, and it's wonderful to see because we'll speak about how big the team is in a minute. We've had that realisation that let's go back to the why, not what do we do when it happens, because we know what we do when it happens. We're very, very good at it. Services and brigades all over the world, train. But we don't want that to be happening, because no matter how well trained you are, you're always relying on the response and our reaction to the response to get there and make a change. You could have had the best smoke alarm. You could have had smoke alarms in every single room, but ultimately most fire stations are going to be 5-10 minutes away. Yep. And people in a smoke environment, they're not going to last. So we've circumnavigated that and come back to the education perspective of it. Now, a lot of members of the public will probably, when you've been saying there about little science food in the cupboards and stuff like that, a lot of people will probably see these in friends' homes, in places that they visit, an elderly person or a person of a different education background. They may have that mental flag in their mind, but it's a really, really uncomfortable thing to talk to somebody about. When you say, have you got an issue with alcoholism? What's your self-care regimen? How do you look after yourself? And what's fascinated me when I've been out and worked with the two of you is your ability to build rapport very, very quickly. And I think that's a really unique skill set. Do you guys get any training in that, or is it something you naturally do?
You've just got to be able to talk to people, and I've been doing this job for a long time, so you just find ways to do it.
Yeah, but it's quite an uncomfortable thing to ask somebody.
Yeah, sometimes it can be, and there are certain questions that we have to ask them, which can be very uncomfortable to ask. So you'll go in a roundabout way of doing it. So, for example, we might need to establish that person's sexuality for equality and diversity. There's certain bits of information we need to get, but you'll look for clues around the house. You might sometimes make an assumption.
Well, like pictures of a spouse, or just if they're living with someone of a same sex and they appear to be close with each other and stuff like that. But just asking the actual question, because data and things like that, people are very, very funny about data. And there's some fairly personal questions to have to ask. Have you ever had a moment where, I imagine not everybody is very accepting of it, we come in our uniform and asking not an inappropriate question, but a very personal question. You've only just met them. Have you ever had a reaction where they don't feel comfortable with it?
Not really. Sometimes people will ask why, and then we explain because of equality and diversity. But if I didn't, you can just tell from the report and how your conversation is going whether you're going to ask that question or not. Because
it's that emotional intelligence, isn't it? You feel the relationship and go, oh, we're not there yet. This person feels standoffish. They may be intoxicated.
We've gone into their house and we have to respect their boundaries. So, I mean, that was just one example with the equality and diversity. But, you talk about the alcoholic. We're going into their premise and we have to respect their boundaries.
Of course.
So you just have to build a rapport with them and gently coax round conversation to establish if they want help and support.
But it's a really difficult thing to do, because there'll be members of their family, if they're lucky to have family members close to them, who will have been aware of this for years and never felt able to ask those questions. And you speak there about going into people's homes. Mike, I know you've done a lot of work throughout your career with individuals like the travelling community. So we speak about members of the community living in different areas. Some people live in multiple areas and they have a very different background. Yeah. And most people, I'm going to speak just as a member of the public now, most people will hear the travelling community and they may have their own personal view about how approachable they are or are not. How have you done that? Because you go in uniform sometimes.
Go in uniform.
How have you done that?
But I personally think the fact that we're the fire service, we're held in a very positive light.
Right,
because of the work you do on the operational fire station, and you're going out and you're helping people. When you have that fire service uniform on, people see that as you're the good guys, you're here to help.
Totally agree. I think we have quite a USP, don't we? I think some people, I love the work that all of our brothers and sisters do in the other services, but the police, sometimes people have an interpretation that they're there to spoil the fun, or they're there to arrest somebody.
They're there to arrest somebody.
And the ambulance service, you hear about them getting kicked and punched on the front line all the time, whereas, I say it with a smile on my face, the fire service, whenever you show up, there will be crews out there that will hear this and they have had rocks thrown at their pumps, but most of the time, people are happy to see you. So do you think that's been part of what's been able for you to get in there? You represent something that's trusted.
100%. We are the fire service. Yeah. So how you included at the start, people think of the firefighter in the control room. We are an all-encompassing Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service with that same mission of the safer people, safer places. So that's a great way to get into those communities and to get into people's homes. You're the fire service, you're here to help. And I think what's really important as well is that we don't just jump in. And so I'm meeting you for the first time, Pete, and I look you in the eye and I say, right, someone says you've got a problem with alcohol.
That's it. It feels like an attack. I'm on the back foot now. Feels like an attack.
You're on the back foot.
You made me feel nervous just saying that.
So we don't just go in with that. So as you said, with the travelling community, we started to build that relationship. So the very first thing we did was just go and say hello.
Yeah.
Or we might take a football out and have a bit.
What
of
are you here for?
With the kids.
We're just here to check you're okay, guys. There's been no complaints. There's been no nothing. Just you're just as important to us as any member of the community. Because at the end of the day, a fire death or a fire injury is a singular. It's not a sexist, racist, anything number.
No,
fire doesn't care.
It's
fire accidents, road traffic collisions.
Yeah.
They've got no prejudices. They will get everybody and anybody if you find yourself in a situation and you haven't had the support from people in the community. So you go in there with no preconceived ideas, with no ulterior motive. You just go and try and build that rapport.
You're part of our community. Everyone live exactly as you said. Everyone living in our community are part of our community. So we just go down and say, hello, you're part of our community. We want to come and say hello. Is there anything we can help you with? And that starts to build.
That must take them by surprise, because I imagine, having spent time with different members of the community, that they're kind of on the back foot sometimes anyway, because there are some very, very passionate, angry towards certain areas of the community, not just the travelling community, but people who are different ethnicity, people with different values. And no matter how old they get, I don't think it's an age and maturity thing. Some people just lack the ability to be tolerant and accepting of different members of the community. Because a lot of people that we refer for vulnerable support or anything like that, they live in the same place all of the time. Now, within the travelling community, as they move around, do they have the same access to things like education and stuff like? Do you ever see examples in that community where things you wouldn't necessarily see in a normal community have not had the same attention there?
Same attention, yeah. So like we said, we build that rapport with those different sites and build that relationship, and then look at what we can do to help support them around fire safety. So one of the things we were exploring was we go into schools and we deliver a school presentation for students in year 1 and year 5. Yeah. But
some children within that community might not get that because they may not access a normal school.
And in the travelling community, sometimes children stop school after primary school. Yeah. So they were missing out on that resource. Yeah. So we were exploring being able to take that presentation onto the sites. So the old saying of, if you can't get the hammer to the mountain, you get mountain to the hammer.
Yeah, I like that analogy.
So you were taking that resource onto the sites to get the children some fire safety information.
How do you do that though? Because you don't like set up a big PowerPoint presentation there, do you? Or do you?
No, so as Sophie said, we have tablets now, we have lots of technology, so we can take that on, we can work with small groups of 10 children.
I bet it's a lot more engaging for them when you just add in that bit of technology as well.
And again, all the fun stuff, we practice the stop, dropping and rolling, and we get them rolling around, and what to do if the smoke alarm goes off. So we look at, is there a point on the site where people evacuate to? So if there's an emergency, can everybody on the site?
And how receptive are they of that? Because do they just lay the sites out whoever they like, or do they have to stay away from each other?
There's structure to the site, and what we recommend is that we have a sort of a 6-metre gap between caravans and homes. So heaven forbid there was a fire in one person's home.
I've been to where there's been caravan fires, and it's exactly that. It can jump quite easily with wind direction and stuff like that.
Yeah, the wind.
But also, that they'll connect with the best of intentions, connect washing lines between them, and they'll have gas cylinders or things strewn around the place, and all of these allow that fire to jump.
So even when that gas cylinder is empty, it's never truly empty. No. There's always a little bit.
It's a potentially explosive device. It's a sealed cylinder, and it can be a massive threat to people.
So we work with that community about where are we storing the bottles, who's coming and collecting them, places of homes, distances between, and again, just making people aware. And then again, looking back at, heaven forbid again, I touch wood as I say this, there's an incident on there, and you go in your fire engine. Yeah. Is there a gate that you need to get through?
Yeah. How do we access?
Is there a combination code to that gate? When you drive on, is it better to go left or is it better to go right?
I suppose also putting my head in an operational perspective, it's a water resource, because these sites may be located in secluded areas.
They might not have a hydrant. Yep.
Exactly. And if we've got that information from the fire site, it's not about, we want to know what you're doing, we want control of it. It's nothing like that. It's saying, look, if something happens here, we want to make sure we turn up with the right resources so that we can help you.
To help you.
We don't want to turn up and go, all right, we've got 3 minutes of water, guys, and then we're out. We're going to travel to the nearest village 10 minutes away, fill up for 10 minutes and come back. Would that be okay whilst your caravan burns down? It's that aspect of learning a little bit more about the community and knowing that you're there to help. You're not there to dictate to them. You're not there to tell them what to do.
You're there to advise.
Exactly
Give information, advise, and again, making sure that we've got the best equipment to serve that community. Water carriers, dams, whatever we need to help that community. Heaven forbid something goes wrong. That education is key. Looking at smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors. Big thing in travelling community is that they'll have the gas bottles.
They have a gas feed, don't they?
Yep. So carbon monoxide detectors in there. In the winter when it's cold and the air vents, are they blocked up? So it's looking at that.
All those things.
And looking at that holistic again. You're going in and you're just having a little look around. You're not being nosy.
What are these little indicators? What's going on here?
Little indicators and talking to people and not trying to hide what you're doing.
No.
Do you mind if I just look at your air vents? Yeah, no problem.
Why? Because this. We've had an incident where it's not because I'm nosy, not because I want to know about your life. No. I'm interested so that what happened to somebody else won't happen to you.
Won't happen to you. That's it. And that gets received really well on the sites. It's a great community. I've drank tea out of some really fancy china.
There you go.
I don't know if you ever used to watch Keeping Up Appearances.
Yeah,
that lady would shake when you had the fine china. Like, I sit there thinking, oh my God, this cup's like. But yeah, it's an amazing community. The amount of tea, the food, I get invited back for dinner. Lovely.
Really great people.
Really great people. Fantastic stuff.
I know in all of the fire service, equality and diversity is championed, but it seems to be so much more of a core value within your team. How is that harnessed? How is that grown? Do you do anything particularly to work on that together? And
I think it, as you say, on your operational crew, you'll have someone that's really good at putting doors in.
Yep.
You'll have someone that's really good with the cutters or the spreaders. You'll have someone that's really good with heights, going up the ladders, and your crew manager will use the strengths of your operational crew to best tackle that challenge and make it work. But every firefighter can do all of it.
Yeah.
So it's the same within our team. Everybody has that ability to work and adapt and change, and we have lots of training to help us look at different cultures and religions and different aspects. But within the team as well, as you said, you've got people that specialise in certain areas.
And it's about knowing how to harness those strengths. And I love what you said there about being willing to, because acknowledgement's a massive one as well from a leadership perspective, acknowledging people's skills and abilities and championing them. Because Sophie, you've got a really unique skill set within the community safety educators team, because you, from your own challenges in life, have developed a wonderful interpretation and mastery of the sign language, and you now use that within your job as well.
So I've got level 6 NVQ in British Sign Language, which is equivalent to a degree.
Which is huge.
Yeah, and the service...
And not many people have got that. Let's just stop there for a second. When we look about UK-wide, because I thought when I was like, the best one in the fire service. And like, no. You come out the fire service and go into the wider education community. Level 6 is, degree level sign language.
Level 6 tends to be what interpreters have. So it's that kind of standard. I'm not saying that I'm that kind of standard, but it's quite up there.
Don't put yourself the humble brag. I'll be speaking to your manager about your pay rise soon, because there needs to be something to it. But you use that. It's something you've done yourself. Fire service didn't ask you to do that.
No. Actually, when I applied for the job, our job role has changed so much over the years. I applied for the job 14 years ago, and one of the criteria was to have a language skill.
Oh, really?
So the languages that they were advertising for at the time was British Sign Language, Somali, Polish, German, Urdu, I can't remember exactly what. And I'd just been made redundant from insurance, which is completely different to what I do now. But I knew I wanted to use my sign language, and I saw this job at the fire service and British Sign Language. I was like, I'm in. I'm going, I'm doing that. But I grew up in the deaf community. Both of my parents are profoundly deaf, so I grew up in that community, and I just thought, what a brilliant way to break down that barrier for deaf people and have access to the fire service. So part of my job interview was to do some signing. Which,
was there anybody else there that could speak sign language?
Yeah, I was about to ask the same question.
She looks really impressive. What's she saying? I've got no idea, but she looks confident.
I could have been saying anything.
Anything at all.
But the fire service had got someone in from the deaf community to kind of see what I was saying and make sure it was all legit. And
I bet it was like a tennis match. They were like looking at you like, what did she say? Yeah, it's good, wasn't it?
Yeah, she looks good.
She looks good.
All about confidence.
So, but it's just kind of grown over the years.
Because for deaf people in the community, I mean, I imagine, and you'll tell the story better than me, it's come in an enormous way and they can live perfectly normal lives. They can access all areas of the community. But when you were younger, you spoke about your parents there. That must have been a whole different game. How different was your childhood when you hear other people's childhoods and you say, well, I never went to whatever, the cinemas with my parents because it wasn't the same experience for us?
Yeah, so growing up, I didn't realise that anything was different. To me, it's normal. I could sign before I could speak. I think I had delayed speech growing up. And
Really?
But I think I really noticed that something was different when I started at senior school, not even secondary school. Things were just normal. Yeah. But at secondary school, my friends would ring each other. Yeah. But they couldn't ring me because we didn't have a phone.
Even things like that, you say that and people don't even think about it.
Yeah, and that was the first hurdle. And I remember my mum and dad used to give me 10p from a very young age, from about the age of 8, and go round to the next door neighbours, and we used to use their phone, and I used to make all of their phone calls for them. So I'd have to ring. That's incredible. Like family or whoever.
That must have made you develop as an adult so rapidly, being interacting with people and on that level to assist your parents and living a normal life.
But like I say, to me, that was normal. I didn't know any different. But looking at it now, I perhaps would have been classed as a carer, a young carer, caring for my parents. So I've been doing that, since I could speak, probably helping them in shops, helping interpret in the bank. My mum would always say, can you ask them this? Can you ask them that? And I remember in the days before subtitles, my mum used to make me sit and watch EastEnders with her, and I'd have to tell her what was going on.
That is just, you can't get a better education than that. And we sort of parody that to what we see in our community these days. We have such a rich diversity in our communities that speak so many languages. I have a number of close Polish friends, for example, and their children speak perfect English and perfect Polish. And one of them even speaks French. And somebody said to me a long time ago, I said, how many languages can a child realistically learn? And they go, as many as you're willing to teach them. Yeah. And you're like, wow. They're not limited by their capacity. They're limited by your time or their resources and the ability to learn it. So now we're finding lots of members of the community that can speak multiple languages, but every now and again you do come across one, and this will be my question to you, who have not managed to have that interaction with the community, and they almost live in a state of isolation. But then they meet somebody like you who's got such a unique ability. And like Mike said about tools within the team, he may come across a member of the community who's hard of hearing, or it is completely deaf, and we in Leicestershire are uniquely positioned with yourself to be able to access that person.
Yeah, no, completely. And so I see it from my parents' perspective. So like you say, deaf people can live normal lives. They can have jobs, they can drive cars, they can do all of that. And, me explaining to my mum what was happening in EastEnders, I mean, thank God for subtitles, but now I still champion in the fire service. We need subtitles on all of our social media, on everything that we produce, because people need to understand it. That we have to be accessible to all of our communities. So,
because I imagine when back when you were younger and phones in their normal sense existed, phone calls, blah. But when social media or even text messaging started becoming a thing, that must have unlocked the world.
Yeah, because then my mum, because my dad's blind as well, so he can't have a phone, but my mum, she got a mobile phone and it was brilliant. The technology.
Unlocked the world to it,
yeah. And even more so now with the internet and social media and Facebook.
But as you rightly said there, have we kind of, not gone too far, but have we kind of come a little bit full circle, because video is now such an interactive form of media. We do a lot of our recruitment through, and a lot of your messages come through video. If they don't have the subtitles, we've now accidentally alienated part of that community. Yeah. And put them back where they were in the beginning of phone calls.
This is exactly it. And it's my job to keep on top of that. Yeah. So
what's the receptiveness like with that when you sort of give that pushback, in a healthy pushback, and say, hey, love the video, whatever department of the fire service you are, can we put some subtitles on it? Oh, Sophie. Or do you get, oh yeah, absolutely, crikey, good point. You know,
No,
what's
people
the
are really
receptiveness?
understanding of it. It's
Good.
just, you get the normal constraints, time and money and
Yeah,
all
of
of
course.
that. But as long as I'm there to keep pushing. But what I did manage to persuade the fire service to do was to sign the British Sign Language Charter a couple of years ago. So we now have 5 pledges that we have to oblige by, and we're monitored by the British Deaf Association. So one of the pledges is making our service accessible to the deaf community, which is British Sign Language.
Yeah.
But, having someone who can do British Sign Language, which I can do, and not so long ago I put out in Service Matters if anyone wants
I
to
was
do
about
British
to
Sign
say,
Language.
because you're now, it's not like, oh, this is Sophie's thing. Sophie's in.
No.
When you all need to ring Sophie, you're
No.
using that knowledge to empower and develop members of
Exactly.
Because I myself, I'm doing your course, and we've done
Yeah.
some Merry Christmas stuff and all this
Yeah.
sort of stuff before.
Yeah.
And it's really lovely for me to be able to pick up those small nuggets, if you will, of skill sets, because people think, oh God, I'm not going to learn the whole sign language. That's too stressful. It's too intense. For me, ignorant perhaps, I don't need to know all. I'd love to, but I'm obviously not willing to invest the time. I need to know a few things.
Yeah.
I need to know, do you need help? What's your name? Where the fire service? Make your way to the exit. Where's the fire? Just these few nuggets that if I come into contact with somebody in an emergency situation, I can still communicate with them.
Yeah.
I can get those vital pieces of information. Get out now, please. Please stay there. Come with me. Are you okay? All these small nuggets, and I love. I send you the odd random message or a quick phone. So, how do I say this? So, and you're so that you're there. You send me the video back, and that's awesome. And I imagine you do a lot of this in your personal time as well. So you have to be passionate about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's so nice that I had 20 people sign up to the sign language course, and not just from the community safety team, but firefighters, people from control. I've got a couple of people from control that signed up, a couple of people from fire protection that signed up. So a wide range throughout the service, because you're right, it's not just me that's going to come into contact with profoundly deaf people. You could be attending a deaf person's house fire tomorrow. And if you can put them at ease by just having a bit of basic, not even basic BSL, but just awareness. So I have created a deaf awareness course, which some watchers have been on as well. And, that just teaches them about body language and lifting up the visor and just staying calm, remaining calm. And
because some people that perhaps don't speak British Sign Language, the individual who is hard of hearing or deaf, they focus so much on those other small clues, the eye contact, the lip movement, because some of them are just expert lip readers as well.
The body language.
Or the ability to communicate, write something down, show them. Things like that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because a lot of our hard of hearing community, they don't use British Sign Language. They're elderly people that have lost their hearing through age. So they've developed ways to pick up on what people are saying. Like you say, lip reading, body language.
Like you say, they may not have had it all their life. It's something that now, somebody may have lost their sight or lost their hearing. And now it's a whole new skill set they've got to learn at 40, 50, 60 years of age.
Yeah.
I love what you said about making it accessible to everybody, because people perhaps don't think of sign language in the same way, but everybody gets physical disability. We get that. It's been around for long enough. And it's a bit like saying, if you had the best resource, the best charity, the best whatever, but it was up a flight of stairs, from just common sense, so-and-so who's physically disabled, less able, is not going to be able to access it. And we're so quick to go, hey, we'll help that, we'll do this, we'll put a ramp in. But perhaps people don't see sign language through the same lens, where they think it's the same thing. They can't reach you. They can't tap into it.
It's a hidden disability. So someone who's in a wheelchair, that's physical. You can see that.
See, it's obvious.
Yeah, and under the Equality Act, we have an obligation to support everybody, not people just with a physical disability that's obvious and that you can see. But, like you say, the deafness. So another thing that we did was we created a text number so that people can text us rather than just ringing us.
Perfect.
And we've been heavily promoting the emergency 999 text service as well, because a deaf person cannot pick up the phone and ring 999.
Like people don't even think about that.
Such a simple thing. Yeah,
I need help. I can't. What are you give me a phone for? What am I going to expect me to do with it?
Yeah.
They're not even going to say that. They're just going to be in that state of panic and almost like catapulted back to being a child. They feel vulnerable and nobody can understand me. You see a child when they can't get their words out or they're overwhelmed by a situation.
So frustrating.
Yeah. And some people wrongly see that frustration, or they may see somebody that's hard of hearing And if they're ignored, because a lot of incident commanders, firefighters, they're in a very pressurized situation when they turn up somewhere. I'm trying to talk to you. You're obviously not listening to me. Why? I need to get the information right now. This person's either not listening to me, or they think like they've got a learning disability or something like that, and they may write them off straight away. This person is educated. This person is conscious. They're not inebriated, but they have a sign language issue, or they have a hearing issue, and they just can't communicate with you.
And that deaf person will see that. They'll see the frustration on that person's face, and it could lead to
their anxiety will climb. Yeah, tension. And then you're in a conflict all of a sudden, not physical, but just a verbal. You're like, oh, I can't speak to this person. They're not paying attention to me. And someone else with a different mindset on the incident ground, hopefully, may come over and go, hang on a second, let me try and communicate with them in a different mindset, and they enter it in a different situation. And as soon as the person raises their hands to try and make a sign, perhaps, the penny drops, and you go, right.
And the whole situation just calms down, because it's already a very stressful situation if it, will be a car accident or house fire or whatever. So
now, Mike, you said around different roles in the fire service, because, again, we echo back to the beginning of our conversation about people think there's people that answer the phone and there's firefighters that go out on the trucks. But when you first wanted to get involved in the fire service, you were first thinking about firefighter this and how can I go about it like that?
So,
But it's a massive, massive organisation of people that have that why, that want to serve their community. There's so many ways they can do it.
There is, and exactly as you identified, Pete, and I know we've had this conversation before. Me and Pete have done a lot of work together. Pete's been with me to traveller sites.
I've learned so much, buddy, just spending that time with you.
Yeah, and that's exactly where I started. So I've been with the fire service 3 years now. I originally applied for an operational firefighter. Yeah. So looking back at it, I thought firefighters control. Saw that advert.
That's what the fire service is.
That's what the fire service is. And I applied for that role as operational firefighter. Mm-hmm. Now, unfortunately, I haven't got my GCSEs. Mm-hmm. So it's the old thing again. If you could go back and speak to 16-year-old self, you would say do better at school.
That being said, we do have the ability to assist people to get those and things now. They're within our recruitment area, but carry on, sorry.
No, it's fine. So as I was filling that application form out, my application froze. And it said, we are no longer able to access your application because you do not meet the criteria.
Yeah.
Coming out of that, saw the advert for community safety. Mm-hmm. What's all this about?
Yeah.
Clicked into it, had a look at it. So it's that old thing of do things happen for a reason.
Yeah.
Because if I'd never applied for that operational firefighter, I was 30 years old at that time. If I'd thought I'm too old, I don't know what I'm doing.
Those self-limiting beliefs
Self-limiting beliefs. I would have never have clicked that application form, and I would have never experienced or seen this community safety role.
Yeah.
And I've been in the team for 3 years now, and for me, it's a very personal thing. So I think I'd always had this thing in the back of my mind since I was a child that I wanted to be a firefighter.
I was the same.
And I think that children, they play with fire engines, they watch firemen sound, and there's something there that's interesting, and they want to get involved. But back in 2008, I lost a very close friend to mine in a car accident.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. And I looked at it and I thought, I couldn't change that. That happened, and I couldn't change that. But what can I do? How can I stop this from happening?
Yeah.
So that passion of, I want to join the fire service and I want to educate people. I want to try and reduce families going through the devastation that I saw and helping people. That was that driving force of, I want to be a firefighter. Now, actually, the role that I'm in now is I'm doing that on a daily basis.
You're able to almost do more, because operational crews will spend an X percentage of time doing community safety education, but a myriad of roles within their role won't mean that they're frontline speaking and engaging with people, which you guys do every day.
And I'm doing that every day now. Yeah. We've been involved with stop and tells with the police. So when people are speeding, they come and do an awareness course with them, and we talk about the dangers. We've been to colleges, and I know we went to Groby College together.
That's fantastic. We went to many colleges
and we went and spoke to groups and children about the impact.
And we don't just go and speak as well. Operational crews, if anybody hears that and think, oh, God, I don't just want somebody to come and speak speak to me. We have operational crews join us. They'll bring a vehicle that will cut up. We have virtual reality
goggles.
That is a
amazing.
real game changer, hasn't it? It's really empowered the team and their ability, and that's gone global as well.
Yeah.
You know, we shout out some of the members of the service that have really taken that to another level, and it gives you more tools to access people with.
So Paul Spate and the road safety team, that virtual reality is
huge,
absolutely amazing, and taking that into children at that age of 16, 17, starting to drive and putting them in that real life scenario.
Because it's being able to communicate with them, because, and I've said this before on a different podcast, that it's hard to make an impact with things these days. You know, we used to protect people from violent media and violent visuals and things like that. But these days, you know, I've got children, my daughter, the youngest child, is 8. And if the right provisions and everything are not in place, she could easily access a very, very violent interaction through YouTube or another platform or something like that. So we don't have the ability to shock and awe as we used to. But we haven't tried to up our game in terms of we're just going shocking, and let's show some horrific pictures, because some people, that can be quite traumatic for them, even just viewing it on a PowerPoint presentation.
If they've been through a personal trauma and they can relate,
and it can trigger,
to it.
It can trigger things. Whereas we've sort of gone about it in a different way. We've embraced technology.
I think it's evolving. I think it's evolving with time. So standing up in front of children and talking, you've probably got about a 15-20 minutes before they start to lose interest.
Far less than that, depending on how engaging you are. It's very challenging.
What do you mean, Sophie? Now, so we've looked at, okay, how do we engage this? How do we work? So like exactly as you said, cutting up the car, showing the kids this is what happens, this is what firefighters do, this is what's happening, is really impacting. The virtual reality stuff is amazing. Social media. Social media is now a really big, powerful tool. But it's identifying across, because social media is not as powerful for the elderly community.
Absolutely.
And when we were talking earlier about vulnerabilities, a vulnerability for a 17-year-old is completely different for a vulnerability of a 70-year-old. So it's looking at all of what have we got as our resources to help get this message across, and get this through, and tapping into all of these things.
We have to know our audience,
don't we?
And work with what we've got for that audience.
And I think that's a unique skill that all of the educators have got to say, you may be given exactly the same message. So you may be going to an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning, and you might be going to an appointment at 11 o'clock in the morning. And on paper, it's the same referral. But it's two completely different styles.
Completely different.
And you've got to be able to adapt. You've got to be able to change. You've got to be able to show it. Like Sophie was saying, if it's someone that's deaf, I can't sign. Exactly as you said. And I know, Pete, you did some videos for us on social media.
Always happy to get involved, you know me.
But I can't sign. I've learned some basics, and Sophie's done some training with us. So we're aware of the light shining on your face with lip reading and basic hello and my name is, but I'll write things down. I might demonstrate something. I might show somebody something. But for somebody else, actually getting a video up, so when I'm talking about closing a door, preventing the fire from being able to spread, well, actually I'm going to pull up some pictures.
Pitch says 1,000 words, doesn't it?
And show it. And for someone that's with technology, they think, oh, okay, do you mean that's interesting? So it's using those different resources at different times.
I always say to people, it's not your resources, it's your resourcefulness. If you have a strong enough why, you can get the message across.
You can get it across.
Now, it's important to say we've not just been arbitrarily trying to keep throwing darts at a board, see what hits, all these different things that we're spoken about here. They're working. I mean, if we look at the last 10 years of operational fire calls, it's gone down dramatically. You know, we're sort of a victim of our own success in the respect that it's really making a difference. You know, you're really managing to get this message across through your persistence. How has that managed to become such an effective tool? And what's the difference between back then and now? I mean, what has the difference been?
So many changes over the years in this role. So you're talking about going into schools with the VR stuff and the presentations that we do. We go into a school with a memory stick. That's what we do. We go with a memory stick and a couple of props.
And some optimism.
But when I first started, we went in with a suitcase. We had a massive suitcase and it had a speaker in it. It had a DVD player in it. You know, things have changed so much. We used to have a pod. I don't know if you ever saw it, but it was a huge unit that used to go on the back of a lorry.
Yes, I have
and we
seen
used to lower it down.
Yeah.
That was actually really good.
Yeah.
It was very interactive. People were coming in. We'd have a bed that actually caught fire.
Nice.
We used the mini fire engine in our department a lot.
Yeah.
So many different resources. Everything's changing so fast within our role.
You have to be hungry to continually learn and develop.
Yeah,
you can't be sat on your laurels and stuck in your ways.
No. You were saying earlier about showing videos.
Yeah.
And we all have a tablet. So we go into the people's homes. We all have access. So we all have a different remit within our team. We've all got different skill sets. Mine's British Sign Language. Michael's is going into the travelling community. There's somebody else who does the IT stuff.
Wonderful.
So she's downloaded a huge range of resources on our tablet so that we can go in and whatever vulnerability we see or whatever we feel that we need to show that person, it's there. We've got it there to show them.
Fantastic.
But what's really good is our partnership working. So you were saying about having the uniform. The minute we go into someone's house, we're accepted immediately.
Yeah.
And
we're very lucky in that respect. We're quite unique.
Yeah, I've been doing this job for such a long time. Very, very rarely met with hostility or refusal. So immediately people are calm with us. We go in, we help, and they don't let many people in. They might not let a social worker in. They might not let a police officer in, but they will let us in through the door.
And I think, sorry, I didn't mean to go. And I think hoarding is a really big example of that, where people close the door and don't let anybody in.
No, because they feel very self-conscious. Yeah. They've allowed their life to get to a point that perhaps they feel embarrassed about. Perhaps they're not willing to detach from. And there's nothing wrong with these people. These people can be very well educated. They can be their own personal hygiene can be absolutely fine. But it is a mental illness. There's nothing wrong with these people. They are struggling with something that has been recognised as a mental illness. And we go to properties, so to speak strictly from a fire perspective, people go hoarding. Okay, isn't that like a social care issue though? It's a big fire loading issue. You've got to think, if something goes wrong, how are we getting in there?
And that's why we're there. Primarily, that is why we're there. But because we already have that trust, because one, they've let us in, two, we're wearing a fire service uniform, three, we're communicators, we talk to people, and we break down those barriers. So we're quite lucky. We have access into so many other services. We can encourage them and support them to go to the doctor, go and get a GP referral. We can make referrals to first contact. We can try and get help for them. And that's where we're lucky that, yes, we go out, we educate people about fire safety, but our role is just so much more than that. We can make referrals and push them onto different directions. But even when you do your referrals,
it's not a shrug, you know what I mean? You're not just slipping the shoulder off. You do all of these follow-ups, and it's not just, I've handed you over to so-and-so, right, off and go over to the next one. No. It's a huge time commitment, and people don't appreciate how long and how committed you are to a smooth transition to getting these individuals the support that they need. Yeah. And again, from a future perspective, that builds enormous trust within that community, because there'll be very few places we go where someone has not had a positive interaction with the fire service. Yeah, and a lot of that will be down to the work that you've done.
And so what we do after we've gone in and done our initial visit, and we've given them support, help and advice, and just spoke to them. Sometimes these people haven't spoke to anyone for weeks.
Yeah.
But what we do then do is a follow-up visit. So we'll say to them, we'll ask them, are you all right if we contact you in another week or a couple of weeks or a month or whatever? And we'll go back, or we'll ring them and we'll ask them how they are, what help did they receive, did they hear from the Red Cross or whoever we may have referred them on to, and we will continue to provide that support. So it's not just we go in and brush them off to another service. It doesn't quite work like that.
No, and it's not all on them to do all of it either. You've already got those links behind closed doors, if that makes sense. You've got the links internally. You've made great relationships with other members of other services, which allows that smooth handover. You're not just sort of throwing the stone over the fence and hoping somebody from EMAS or police picks it up. You've got those strong connections, and then we all manage to move as one unit to support this individual. And it's, I imagine from that, what I've heard from members of the community, how incredible it is to see different members of different services working in such unity. It's probably quite refreshing for some people.
We have good relationships with other agencies, don't we, Michael?
That multi-agency, that all-encompassing safety check is what is so important. Our initial visit is there is a fire concern there.
Yeah.
So we talk about hoarders. there's a concern there. If this person has a fire, that this fire loading is going to go up really quickly. They're not going to be able to exit the property.
Because there could be a poor mobility as well. We're not just talking, fit, healthy people who are having hoarding. They can have multiple other complex illnesses or issues.
So there's that original fire risk. This person can't get out, or there's a high risk of fire. But when we're there, and as we were talking about earlier, we're noticing other things. We're seeing other bits. So our initial visit might be to a hoarder. Let's talk about hoarders, for example. First visit might be putting some smoke alarms in.
Yep.
Building a rapport.
Yep.
Getting through
You're
the
adding
door.
value. That's all we're going to do for now, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about some
and I'm
stuff.
going to come back next week. I'm going to put these smoke alarms in for you.
Yep.
I'm going to come back next week, check they're okay. Oh, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
So then when you go back the following week, they know
that's one positive interaction in the bank.
That's one in the bank.
And then when I'm coming next time, I'm going to explore this avenue.
Yeah, I'm going to
build in that rapport.
I'm going to build that. I'm going to build that rapport. I'm going to explore this a little bit more. So I've noticed that the kitchens, how are you doing for food? Because the oven's really full, or the cooking. I'm struggling a little bit with this. And okay, so should a target be? Let's try and get that kitchen sort of looked at, and can we do a referral in to get you a bit of help with cooking?
And some people don't know the help's out there.
They don't know it's there.
You know, an older generation are in a mindset of self-reliance, which is sometimes a fantastic thing. You know, and sometimes we lack that in the younger generation. But the downside of that is they think my problems are my problems, and they can get themselves to a point where they are really struggling.
They have pride, and that's what it is.
Pride's powerful, but it's also a hindrance.
Yeah, and it's our job to encourage and support and get them that help that they need. But there are a lot of elderly people out there who are reluctant because it's perhaps seen as a bit of a weakness, or
Well, I've some younger members of the community who may have, and I'll speak from EMAS, the ambulance service perspective at this point, may have what's considered a minor injury or a minor something where that help is there for them, and they can go and access a walk-in centre, or they can ring one of the other phone numbers rather than 999. Whereas you may have an elderly person with a truly physically debilitating condition, but they're like, I'm fine. I'm just going to crack on. I won't bother them.
I won't waste their time.
Yeah.
You've just fallen down the stairs.
And
you've got a massive laceration to your head.
You see that?
But I'm not dead, am I? I'm okay. And you're like, no, hang on a minute, something's gone wrong here. I love what you said there, Mike, about being able to go back and look at the other aspects of it, because we echo back to, obviously, the Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service's core statement about, and it's beautiful that they've changed it into the Safer People, Safer Places, because the statement's not less fires, less emergencies. You know, it's not something like that. You and all of the members of the fire service now have the ability to treat people holistically. Yep. Do you know what I mean? They don't come in and go, smoke alarm. Right, smoke alarm's done, off I go. You know, they come in and go, oh, hang on a minute, let me step back. Let me look at this through a different lens. What else is going on in this person's world? And they're never assuming. You know, we all make assumptions. We'll go, I'm sure somebody's dealing with that. I'm sure they're in the system. I'm sure social services are aware. You know, and we can go back to property sometimes and think, how is this person continuing like this? And they're completely off the radar. You've sort of taken on that role, as I know a number of operational crews have as well, to think, no, I'm either going to check, so I'm going to contact people within other services and make sure they're on the radar. Okay, wonderful, you're doing your job. Can I ask what's being done about it? Can I ask when your next, well, actually, nobody's been in 6 months. Okay, so I'm going to put in another referral today. Can I ask that a member of the team, or I'll give Sophie a ring, I'll give Mike a ring, or other members of your team, to make that more of a priority and to ensure that even though inherently people may not consider it to be a fire service issue, responsibility, or however we frame it, it's that sincere, as you said there, Mike. If you've got a true desire to help somebody, you'll find a way to do it.
You'll find a way. And exactly as you said, Pete, we go back to the scenario we talked earlier with the alcoholic who drops the cigarette and going round in that circle.
Yeah.
If we can get a referral into a turning point, into a break in the cycle, for them to get some help around what is the reason why you're drinking. Yeah. And looking into that and getting some help, we're reducing that fire risk. But we're also, as you say, that holistic approach of safer people, we're getting them that extra help.
And you're not just treating the symptoms. You know, people treat the symptoms and they don't want to go back to the why. Because you may go in there and go, okay, if we use this as a thought process exercise, how do we do it? Okay, I tell you what, let's get some fireproof sofas. Because he's obviously burning his sofa. Let's get a fireproof sofa. I'll get him an ashtray as well. Yeah. And I'll fit a smoke alarm. Right, okay. Have you thought about talking to the person? No, I'm gonna fix everything around the person, and then just But if you try, and it's exactly what your role is, if you try and help and educate and serve the person rather than, I mean, yes, we do a lot of things for people's environment. You've spoken about accessing different ways for people to make their homes safer. But I love that we've now made that transition into getting to know the person, because these people can live in communities. And whilst we're all unique and we're all wonderfully special, they're probably not the only person that's struggling in that same way. That will be a litmus test. It will be an example of a part of the community that then brings that awareness. And I know you guys then go back and feed it into your team, and you have those wonderful discussions where you share your experiences and say, you know, and I saw this and I saw that. And then another team member will go, you know what, I saw that as well. And hang on a minute, what's this trend? And it then empowers people with a different perspective when you go into your next role.
When you go into your next role and looking for that pattern.
Yes.
So leading on exactly as you said, we've got a gentleman in the fire service by the name of Ashif, and he's sorted out a hoarding group. Yeah. So exactly, people think they're isolated and I'm only suffering with this. Well, there's a group where people can go and explore that, and we can help support people into that. But again, it's looking at that pattern. Yeah. This is happening, and I've done X, Y, and Z, and this is still happening. Why is this happening? And sometimes being able to go back to the team and say, and someone might say, yeah, I had that exact same thing, and this is what we did, and this I hadn't thought of that. Yeah. Let me explore that avenue. Let me go back and say, I've spoken to Sophie. She's talked about this. Let's explore this. So it's never let's draw a line under it. Well, I've done X, Y, and Z. I've done all I can. I'm going to draw a line under it now and move on. Yeah. There's always a solution to the problem. Always. And it's just about sitting down and thinking what that is. And sometimes that can't be done in one visit. It can't be knock on the door.
We don't want a knee-jerk reaction to it, because that can be, you may get it right, but you might miss the mark.
And sometimes we actually can't help them, and we have to know when it's our job to walk away. But you're right. We all do bounce off each other. So I think there are about 10 people in our team. We've all got different skill sets, experience, and I might go into a property and see something. You might see something different, but we all bounce off each other, and we ring each other and, you know, ask for help. What would you do in this one? What would you do? And like Michael said, you might have experienced something and you can advise me, or vice versa. But we do primarily work alone, don't we? We do lone working.
We do lone working, so we all have our individual patches, and we work from our stations. I've actually followed you around, haven't I?
We've been on a few jobs together.
I've ended up on a few stations.
There we go.
But although we're lone working, we still work very much as a team, and we have to.
Yeah, and that's the power that sits within the team as well. Now, we've spoken a lot about getting to know people and uncovering patterns and how we're adding value in lots of different creative ways. Now, some people, more sinister perhaps in the world, may look at that because everything has a cost. Some of it's a life cost, some of it is a financial cost. And some people go, we're very conscious of money, very conscious of government funding. How are we going to pay for all this? How are we going to pay for all this? Now, the problem is, if you don't do what you guys are doing now, what your entire purpose of the team is, the cost is going to land at some point. So if you aren't able to deal with that, and I'll use falls prevention as an example. We have a falls prevention group that operates in Melton Mowbray and now operates in other areas of the Leicestershire as well. What's the cost if we don't deal with the issue at the root cause? Now, this individual may have 1, 2, 3, 4 falls. Okay. Now, every time they have a fall, you may have an ambulance crew turn up. 1, 2 members on an ambulance crew, and the ambulance, and the response time, and the people answering the phone. So there's a tangible cost if we had somebody here to work it out for us. I'm sure it's a large number.
It's a large number, yeah.
Now, some of these people who are less mobile, typically people that have a fall will be less mobile. They may be of an age where their health is not fantastic. So to get those people out of the property, they will often ring the fire service, which is fine. That's what we're there for. We work with lots of different services in lots of different ways. And we will turn up with a crew of 4 firefighters, sometimes more, and our resources and the cost of the fire engine to help get that person out of there. Now, the tangible cost of that is enormous. We're into the tens of thousands to get that team there doing that. And if they're doing it multiple times versus then having that moment of realization where somebody, like you've done with the hoarding, captures this group and says, hang on a minute, let's step back and have a look at the trend, as you've rightly said there as well. How many people is this happening? What's the locality of it? How can we educate and support these people? And then enters the community safety educator as well. So you guys, we talk about elderly enforcement, because people may hear this and go, well, I'm not a member of the deaf community. I'm not a hoarder. I don't have that problem. But people, as they go into a different stage of their life, there's things like this where the fire service, people may not assume the fire service do this. They're able to come in and support people with that aspect of it.
Yeah, 100%. And as you say, those costs of getting the fire engine out and the ambulance crew out and those repeat calls is astronomical. It's really high. So it's actually a more efficient way for us to.
Because people might go, oh, there's no point in doing that because the fire. We deal with it anyway. We go to the instance. We do that. I know we deal with that one way. Yeah. Is there another way to do it? That adds more value to the person, because we don't want them to just keep picking them up every time they fall. Because every time they fall, it hurts. Yeah. And if you can stop somebody having a fall to start, once they've had that first fall, they become very, very petrified, and they become less mobile, not more mobile, because they're like, I don't want to fall again. I'm not even going to go upstairs because it's pretty scary and I'm petrified of falling.
And they're more likely to fall again.
They're more likely to fall again. And also, as they continue, they don't recover as easily, and the mobility just tends to decrease. Do you know what I mean? And if we just throw cost at it, like some people, we'll give them a wheelchair. As soon as you put somebody into a wheelchair, it's hard to get them out of it again.
They've got to keep.
If you don't use it, you lose it, and if they don't continue to challenge that, we say muscles, but their body, if they're not exercise, and even exercise is walking around the house. If they don't continue to put that load on their body, they're going to debilitate, and they're going to become more of a vulnerable person before we're turning up one day because they couldn't get out. They had an accident and they could not get out.
And I think, again, importantly, we were saying about that resource, by us doing the job we're doing, our end goal is that you don't go, Pete, with the greatest respect.
Absolutely.
They don't get a 999 call in a fire engine.
As fun as it is to have a fire engine turn up, it means somebody is having the worst day of their life.
So if a good day for us is that you guys don't go.
We're doing training. We're doing whatever. Yeah.
Now I'd always say ring 999 if you need to. Don't ever think it would be okay. If you're in doubt, ring 999. Yeah. But by the work we're doing, it makes you available as well. For jobs that come up for the RTC, for things that are out.
And it enables crews to become more resourceful and how to better deliver their role, because it's not personal development and different things that we do in the service doesn't just happen backroom within the teams of community safety educators. Operational crews, there's more equipment coming out every single day, more processes and procedures. The threat that faces the communities these days, from an international, from a terrorist, from an environmental perspective, is enormous. We look at the flooding and everything that we've experienced lately. Now, we talk about the threats that experiences lately. We're in a global pandemic at the minute. Hopefully coming out the other end of it, but we are currently within it.
Not so sure about Leicester.
Not so sure. So we are here in Leicestershire, and we're struggling with it in our own unique way. A lot of what we've spoken about today is, hey, we're going into schools. Hey, we're going to see the person. Now, you can't do that.
No.
In these last few months, we talk about being resourceful. You guys have had to get creative.
We've had to change the way that we work, because our job is to integrate with the community, like you say, going into schools, going into community groups and delivering talks, and going into people's homes and meeting other agencies, social workers or whoever, and we just can't do that anymore. So we're housebound pretty much. So we've had to change the way that we work, and we're now working from home.
So how have you bridged that gap?
So the vulnerable people, they're still out there.
Of course.
The referrals are still flying in. EMAS is still going out and, picking up the person that's fallen or whatever. So we're still getting the referrals in, and we're doing our work over the phone at the moment.
How really effective has that been? I mean, how many people have actually managed to contact? Because some people don't even like answering the phone. How many people have you spoken to in the last?
So when the lockdown first started, I was managing to get in touch with quite a lot of the people.
Yeah.
You Michael?
Yeah, so since lockdown started, we've phoned just over 2,300 people.
2,300 people?
Yep, since the start of lockdown, which is 23rd of May, I believe lockdown started.
Okay.
March,
sorry. 2,300 calls.
That's huge, considering, like you say, you've only got 10 or less people, I suppose, that do the phone calls. That's a huge demand on your time, I'd have thought.
Yeah, and initially, so we were ringing these people, and everyone was in a blind panic at the beginning of lockdown. So we were going through the fire safety stuff, but then, and what my work became more of was, how are you managing? Are you getting food? Can you get your prescriptions? How are you coping?
Yeah.
And we were arranging food parcels, arranging prescription collections, putting them in touch with the Red Cross and Silverline. There's
prescription collections is a strange one, but I have heard, I'm aware of the fire service trying different aspects of that. But again, I think it comes back to that sincere desire and value to try and help create safer people. How have we gone about that? Because people hear prescriptions, a very personal thing. How have the fire service managed to integrate themselves into that role?
So I know that at a higher level than us, there has been something arranged. But locally at our level, what I would do is if somebody is saying to me that they were struggling to get a prescription because they're housebound or they have a wheelchair or they have the 12-week letter to say that they couldn't go out, I'd be ringing the pharmacy direct and asking, is there any way we can get a prescription to that person? Some of them would say, yes, we'll arrange that. And I'd just put them in contact with each other. Some pharmacists said to me that they had local volunteers, but then there is the fire service as well. And they can, so there are people that are going out and delivering.
I love that we've managed to have that injection of common sense, if you know what I mean. Because at the end of the day,
adaptation, we've
we
adapted
hear those,
to it.
that need is there. There's a very clear need. And some people medicate for various reasons, but for the vast majority, it's essential for them to sustain a normal, healthy life. And the fire service have looked at it and they've gone, well, we've got personnel. We haven't got masses of personnel, but we've got personnel. We've got resources. We've got vehicles. So you've got an essential life-serving thing that needs to get from A to B. Well, I tell you what, I can do that. And it's been wonderful to see that rapid adaptation, as you said there, Mike, to find the resources, to fulfill that desire and to add value to people that need that support.
And at the core of everything we do, and this is why we do the job, is what can I do to help somebody?
Yeah.
It goes back to everything we've said all the way through. What can I do to help this person? And at this time, as Sophie said, people didn't have food on the table. I know there's been a big problem with children that are on free school meals and not being in school meant that families couldn't afford to feed their children. And I know that they've managed to sort out sort of that now, and there's food processes going on. And Marcus Rashford has been really big with that.
Good on. It's great to see people stepping in there.
Stepping in.
And again, it's not his job.
No, it's not his job, but he's looked at it and gone, what can I do to help? And that's been our same approach of what I can't get out and get into your home at the moment, but what can I do to help you?
What value am I trying to add? There's lots of ways to do it.
And it was a difficult situation for everybody, not just for us as community educators, but all services out there. The whole thing was just thrown upside down. So
it's been great to see people really reach out to each other. Fire service haven't tried to fix the whole problem. We're not the best at everything, but we know how to seek support from the other services.
That's it.
Their area of speciality.
And we've done that as a team. So we're having weekly Zoom meetings and we're sharing ideas. And has anybody heard of this? If you heard of that, you can refer to here. You can use this service, use that service. So we've really had to pull together as a team as well, haven't we?
So Sophie, we spoke about the various different needs that members of the community might have, and especially within this lockdown side of it, mental health has been huge. Anxiety's been climbing, how people have been struggling. I suppose it's more important now than it ever has been. But even before this, when we look at things like, dementia, a close friend of mine has suffered with dementia for a number of years, and it's a horrifically debilitating condition. But even within the team, we've got specialists for that.
So we've all received dementia training. We've all received so much training, falls training from Turning Point and First Contact and so on and so on. But dementia, yes, we have two champions within the team, Julie and Clive. They specialise in that, but we are trained to recognise signs when we go in. We know that we need to speak to family members. It might be that we need to get in contact with Cadent to ask them to turn the gas off or have trip switches and things like that. Lifeline is a great referral that we can do. So if somebody has left something on the stove one day, they can get the smoke alarm that's linked into a lifeline. So there's a call centre. There's so much help. And I
suppose it's understanding the connection between the two, because again, some people listening might think, why has that got to do with the fire service? But you immediately went straight to it. Somebody that is of a debilitating condition, such as dementia, yes, the first few things are, they're forgetting this, they're forgetting that, and people might think, they're just getting old. But when those forgetful things start to bleed into, they left the cooker on,
left the oven on,
this on,
they've left a cigarette unattended,
they're not cleaning themselves anymore, they're not getting dressed very well, they're, how soon can people recognise that? And that's where I suppose the training comes in so crucially. And we've not just tried to get our interpretation of it. We've had some wonderful people come in from outside of the service. There was a gentleman that speaks about progressive dementia from the perspective of his wife that suffered for years, and how it's that sort of bookcase analogy that different books fall off different shelves from short-term to long-term memory, and depending on the type of dementia it is, can affect people very, very personally. So is that a case where Julie and Clive go in and specifically work with the individual, or?
No, I think, well, we all go in. Because we've all received the training, but Julie and Clive are the specialists in that. So if we came across something that we're struggling with, we can refer to them. We can ask them, what would you do in this situation?
Okay.
So they're like our referral points, really.
But they are most certainly a vulnerable person that needs some extra support.
And this is where we contact family members. Quite often we'll be dealing with children, well, not children, but the child of the adult.
Now
an adult.
Age,
So we'll quite often deal with them and advise them and guide them. Did you know that this is available? Did you know that that's available? Would you like me to put you in touch with so-and-so?
We're not asking them to become a dementia expert themselves.
No.
We're saying, look, these support mechanisms are out there. Are you happy for us to involve them? Are you happy for us to seek support on your behalf so that we can help your mum, dad, loved one, elder of your family?
And a lot of people are really grateful for it because they didn't know.
No, and they were just suffering.
What things were available.
To watch somebody go through that, as the gentleman at Trained has rightfully said, it's horrific for the people around them to watch that progressive disease take that person away from them. And all of their inhibitions that go with it. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, when he came in and spoke to us, and he was talking about how you shouldn't have a rug on the floor because to the person with dementia, they might think that's a big hole in the ground.
Yes, I thought that was amazing.
It's just things like that. Just, so we go in and we can recognise things and and make suggestions, or maybe we shouldn't just move that might help.
So, Mike, a lot of the stuff we've spoken about today, as we've already referenced, people might think it's nothing to do with the fire service, but not even that. There'll be firefighters perhaps listening that think, I daren't do something like that because it's not in my role, and if I don't do it right, and then somebody's going to tell me off, I'm not going to get congratulated. I'm scared of getting hit with a big stick. There's a lot of red tape around health and safety and things like that. What's your experience has been like with doing things outside of your role and the support you have or haven't experienced in that?
So we identify that is that extra mile. What can I do, which is that extra mile to help someone? And the way I look back at it, for people that say, oh, I'm worried about doing this or I'm worried about doing that, if it was my parents that were struggling and a firefighter had come in and he had changed a light bulb, for argument's sake, so the light bulb is gone on the landing and the person can't reach to change the light bulb and they're at risk of falls. So now we've got a dark landing in dark stairs, we've got a risk of falls, we've potentially got a real
recipe for disaster
incident here. So we could ring a family member that lives in Devon to say, can you get up and change the light bulb? Well, I can get there in a week's time, and that danger's there now. I've identified.
It's a ticking time bomb, isn't it?
I've identified this issue. There's a risk here. I need to put a protective factor in to cover this risk. So let's change the light bulb. Let's say, have you got a spare light bulb? I'll change it for you. No, I haven't got any. Okay, I'll nip down to the shop. I'll come back in 10 minutes and I'll change that light bulb. It's a really little thing. It takes 10 minutes out of my day if I go and pick a light bulb up, or 30 seconds if they've got one. But the impact for that family can be huge. But just a simple act of changing a light bulb.
And let's be clear for a second as well. This is not a service we offer. We're not encouraging people to ring 999 to ask us to change any light bulbs. That's not what the fire service are there for. But it's certainly something to empower our operational crews that if they should come across an incident such as this, by all means seek guidance and things like that.
Seek guidance. So I've had someone say to me before, they had one of the Ring doorbells. They'd bought a Ring doorbell and they said, can you, I don't know what I'm doing, can you put it in? And at that point, I said, well, I'm not an electrician, I've never put one of these in before, and I didn't feel comfortable in putting that light bulb in. So what I did is I said, I can put you through First Contact Plus, and they can put you in contact. They have reputable people on there, through Age UK, reputable tradespeople that can come in and do it. So I didn't feel comfortable, but I can put you in contact with someone that can come and do it.
Which is a very different experience to them between going, can you and you go, no, we don't do that.
No, sorry,
I
don't do that.
I didn't ask you to do it. Do you know what I mean? But that person won't say that. They didn't say, I didn't ask you. They'll just immediately get shut down and go, oh, sorry. So I apologise for asking you such an imposition. As you've said, this has been recognised, and there's all those support structures in place for us to refer these out. Like you say, if it's a very small task, like trimming some trees back so that somebody can get out of their own doorway, or moving a trip hazard out of their hallway.
Moving a trip hazard out of the hallway.
You're going to do it, aren't you?
Cutting some hedges back. One, it means the exit's clear. In an emergency, they can get out. But two, mental health, well-being, positivity, just doing something which brightens that person's day.
It could just be making that person a cup of tea. A lot of the people that we see, they have carers that come in 3 times a day, and if you've gone in the middle of that time, these people are lonely. They just want someone to talk to. They've got a cup of tea on the side that's half drank, gone cold. So I'll say to them, would you like me to make you another cup of tea? And they'll say, oh, that would be lovely.
And again, it makes that person relax. It makes them
just sit and have a chat with them, and they tell you about their family, and you know, before you know it, you know the whole life story. But you've cheered them up that day.
It's great to see
you've made that difference.
Yeah,
it's a little. It's a really little thing.
Yeah,
didn't take a lot for you to do it.
Didn't take a lot. Cup of tea, change a light bulb. They've taken the door off the kitchen because when the children were little, they had a stair gate there, and the children have grown up and moved out, and they've just never put the door back on. Where's the door?
We still got it.
It's in the garage.
Just stick it back on.
Do you want me to put it back on the hinges for you?
Yeah.
Oh, would you mind?
Yeah.
No, of course not. It's going to take me a couple of minutes to rehang a door for somebody.
Yeah.
One, it stops that fire from spreading, that smoke from spreading.
It's no exaggeration. It might save a life.
It might save a life.
Yeah.
Two, it's taken a very little bit out of my time.
Yeah.
And they're comfortable in me doing it. Instead of me making a referral and taking 3 or 4 weeks for someone to put a door on, I'm here now. We've identified an issue. Let's get it sorted.
Yeah.
Let's get this helped.
Yeah, if you can do it and you can do it safely and it's, you know, then why not?
Why not?
Absolutely. And it comes back to everything we've been saying about our ability to utilise all of these different resources to do what morally we know to be the right thing. And now we're able to cut through that red tape to do what we know is the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do. It was the right thing to do at that point of time.
And it then acts as another experience. You know, we spoke about the USP of how the fire service are able to be so accepted by the community. It's because of the compound effect of all of these small actions. You know, you speak to somebody and they say, you know, I had the fire service out once. What was her name? Sophie was her name, yeah? You know what? She did X, she did Y, she did Z. I had no idea they did anything like that. And the person they're speaking to, it then becomes their impersonation. It becomes their impression of the fire service. And that acts as one interaction. Even though it wasn't you specifically, it's a fire service interaction. So then when they see us next time, when a child sees the fire service for the first time, it identifies it as a safe thing to approach and a safe place to get that help from.
That's it, 100%.
Fantastic.
They're not just there at the end result. It's the fire crew coming. Like you said, someone's had the worst day of their life and there's a fire engine there.
Yeah.
And the fire engine's there to help. It's to make sure mum and dad are safe, or to make sure granddad's safe. They're there to help arrange food parcels. They're there to help.
When we leave the property, we want to feel that we've done everything we can to help.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to walk away thinking I've not done enough.
Yeah.
Whatever you can to help that person.
So, Mike, you've referenced a couple there. So let's jump into them. You've been making these phone calls. Now, when you're going out there, you're physically demonstrating some stuff. But some people that may listen to this in our community and go, some of that sounds really, you know, I've never seen any of the community safety educators speak. I've never seen a firefighter speak. You know, I think my house is quite safe, and I think I'm fine. Talk us through what would be your top 5 or 10 or however many you feel is appropriate. You find yourself on the phone to a member of the community or in their home. What should people be looking out for if they go, you know, I've heard this thing today. They sound really interesting. What can I take away from it? What things should they be looking out for in their home to become safer?
Right, top 3 tips for me.
Go for it.
I'll go first.
You go first.
I'll do the
She'll take the good ones. And then Mike's going to go, oh, crikey.
I'm panicking now.
So sometimes if I'm talking to people and I don't have much time, or they don't have much time, and I've got to get a key message across, have a working smoke alarm, close your doors at night, have a telephone in your bedroom.
Okay. Have a working smoke alarm. What, like in the drawer, or just like in a garage, or
in the shed?
In the shed. Yeah, I've got one, and I do, because I remember my son gave it to me 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember he tried it there, so it worked. Is that good?
We hear it all, Pete. We hear it all. So one upstairs, one downstairs on your escape route. Check them monthly.
What is your escape route
on
mean?
the landing? So
Because I can escape out the window.
all stairs and landing. You shouldn't need to jump out of a window.
Jump out the window.
Because you hear people
You
go,
don't
"Hey,
put mattresses out."
I've got a rope."
Yeah.
I've told no. Whoa.
Two most
But
common
people-
questions in the fire service is: Do firefighters get cats out of trees? And should I jump out the window? if
Should I
there's a
jump out
fire?
the window?
Yeah.
It's amazing though what people think.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people accept, these are really good reminders, and yes, I knew that. But there, you will always get people who say, "I've got a rope ladder.
Yeah.
I'd jump out of the window," and we're like, "No, hold on. You don't need to jump
Why
out
did
of
it
the
get to
window."
that point?
Yeah.
How did we get there so quickly?
Close your doors. Have working smoke alarms. Switch all your electrics off at night. Don't put your washing machine on overnight. You know.
So we've got escape route. We've got one on the landing, one in the hallway. Checking them. How do we test them?
Monthly,
okay.
using a broomstick or something.
Yeah.
So they'll say, well, I'll say to people, how do you check your smoke alarm?
Yeah, I'll look
well,
at it.
It's fine. Yeah, I see the light going, or it goes off when I'm cooking toast. Well,
Yeah.
no, actually, you need to test it properly.
Yeah.
Don't stand on a chair, because that will be the next thing they say. I'll stand on a chair.
Yeah.
Or
Watch me, I'll do this. No.
And some people say that they even get a candle and put it under to see if the smoke will set it off.
Magic.
All of that sort of stuff.
That's going to go well.
Yeah.
Can't see any problems there. So we've got escape route. You mentioned something about electrics. I would have thought electrics is fairly safe. Why do they need to be concerned about that?
People put their washing machine on overnight. They put their tumble dryer on overnight.
Yeah, but a lot of people say that's cheaper. It's cheaper in the night. Surely.
And that's what we say. But we say where there's an electrical appliance on, especially a big electrical appliance like that, then it's a risk. So why not just switch everything off at
And
night
it's not
before
that
you
we
go to
think
bed?
it's a risk. You know, I myself have been to many incidents where you find some tumble dryers and stuff like that. They don't have a vent. They've got a build up of all the little bits of fabric that come off your clothing, and they build themselves. It's sometimes someone's outbuilding or just in the.
And I've had a personal experience of that. I had the washing machine on, and the washing machine had come off the drum.
Magic.
And I think that's from me putting my trainers in there and washing my trainers.
Well done. I'm sure your partner was impressed.
And that had come off the drum and got stuck.
Yeah.
So the washing machine is still trying to turn.
The motor's still going.
The motor's still going, but the drum isn't spinning.
Yeah.
And that started smoking. Now, this happened before I joined the fire service.
Yeah.
So what I did there, which we heavily don't promote, is I dragged that washing machine out of the house and threw it in the back garden.
Yeah.
Where we would promote, if that gets to that point, get yourself out, get your family
Get
safe.
out,
Ring 999. The most important thing in that household is you and your family.
Yeah.
Get out.
But people
ring
think,
999.
yeah, but it's designed to do it. You know, it's supposed to wash. Why can't I do it? People forget that these things all have a shelf life.
All
if
have
you will.
a shelf life.
You know, eventually they're going to have wear and tear. They're going to break down, and they go, "Oh, we'll just sue the person that's made it."
Yeah.
You may have had it 15 years. You may have had it 20 years.
And this is what people say. They say, like, if we see an old block adapter, for example.
What's a block adapter for people that aren't sure?
You know, the cube that you can put 2 or 3 different plugs
from all the
on.
different angles you can plug it into it. Yeah, they're
And
fine, right?
We see quite a lot of those, especially the really old ones that have gone yellow and they look like they're from the 1940s. And people will say, but it's been fine. I've used it for years.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. That can be quite challenging to encourage
change.
that person to change that, because they truly believe, I've had that for years, it's absolutely fine.
But also the thing itself may have been fine for a very long time, but the things you're plugging into it may have changed. Now, we can all access lots of places, Amazon, eBay, all this sort of stuff, where products are produced all over the world. And the area that they are produced in may or may not adhere to the same regulations and standards as items in the UK, because we're all after a deal.
Yeah,
we're all
and
after a deal.
I had that myself. I used to charge my mobile phone up at night on my bedside table.
Yeah.
And one morning, I looked at my phone, and it was flat. I'm like, how could it be flat? It's been on charge all night.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I really couldn't figure it out. And I looked down at the plug. There were scorch marks all around the plug. The plug had been blown out of the wall while I was sleeping, and I did not know anything about it. And that was a charger from the pound shop.
And we have it a lot, you know, with mobile phone chargers, with vape chargers, with some self-care products, straighteners, things like that, where a brand will have been manufactured somewhere else. It may be a phony, if we use the word phony. Somebody's looked for a deal, they've got it off the market, or whatever. And there's a lot of great brands out there that are sold in lots of different ways, and I'm sure there's a lot of wonderful providers. But there are these steps we can take to empower ourselves to just look after ourselves a little bit smarter.
And
So sorry, go on.
No, sorry, Pete. I was just going to say, and this is the great thing about going into people's houses and knowing your audience, because if you go into, there's a young family who smoke or they're vaping and they've got mobile phones everywhere, we can target that advice. Whereas that might not be necessary for the 80-year-old lady.
You don't just sheep dip one treatment for everybody. I'm just going to tell you the same stuff. I'll talk to you about smoking. I don't smoke. I'm going to talk to you about smoking. I don't smoke.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is what the challenge can be slightly on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, it is different working from home because of COVID as opposed to going into the house. But
so we've got the electrics, we've got the smoke alarms. You're allowed one more before Mike jumps in with the big ones.
Closing doors. Closed door will hold back a fire for 15 to 20 minutes.
Now, that is a strange one for some people because they may go, no, I like that. I need air circulating around the house. I don't like dank rooms, you know, or like the dog.
What about
the
my cats?
dog needs to run in between out. But you're saying every fire door is going to buy people that aspect of time.
It gives them time to get out. And some people accept your advice, some people don't. But it's our job to give them the information. Yeah. What they choose to do with it is up to them in their own little castle. But if they say to me, oh, I can't close the door because of the cats, and I will explain to them, but if you don't close the door, the smoke will be upstairs to your bedroom within 1 minute, 2 minutes. I was about to say to you,
we talk about a door holding back fire. For me personally, yes, fire's big and dangerous, but the fire's not often what's going to kill you. It's going to be the smoke, and the smoke will travel quickly. Exactly. It will come straight to the roof. It will lip under that door. It will be straight up. You know, it's just like a homing missile straight to you. Within minutes. And as soon as that starts to come down, that smoke layer comes down, and we all stand up into it. 1, 2, 3 breaths of that toxic carcinogenic stuff, and you will be on the floor, and then it's game over.
And this is what we try to educate people. But what we also do when we do our follow-up phone calls, like I said to you earlier, we follow up. And during our follow-up phone calls, we ask them, have you changed any of your habits? And people will quite often say, yes, I don't put the washing machine on anymore overnight. Yes, I do close my doors. So we are having an impact.
It's making an impact.
Yeah.
So you had your top 3. Pressure's on, Mike.
Top 3, pressure's on.
What we got, buddy?
Just to go back on what Sophie was saying, and it gives me and my brain a little bit of time to think. Is the reason we say about the washing machine's not on at night. Now, when my washing machine did that, it was in the middle of the day. I was sitting in the kitchen at the time and reacted to it straight away.
You're very aware. You're awake.
I was very aware. I was awake. If that had been 2 o'clock in the morning, I was asleep and I hadn't checked my smoke alarms and my doors were open, could be a completely different scenario.
That's when you're most vulnerable when you're sleeping.
You've responded in 5 seconds in the kitchen, but there you've gone 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Did smoke alarm go off? Don't know because I didn't check it. Right, smoke's coming up the stairs.
Smoke's up the stairs. Now it's thick.
I can smell something. What is that? And I'm fumbling about the landing with all the stuff that I haven't put away because I've not kept my escape route very good.
Yeah, this is it.
And then you become aware something's happening. And then you've got to try and notify your family. And then there's a time lapse for them to get out. And on we go, and it starts to climb before we even get to the door and realise we haven't got the kids.
Panic sets in.
Yeah.
So we've got that first aspect there.
So it's looking at that and going back as well. That education is key. Before I joined the fire service, I kept doors open. I had washing machines on at night. I did all the things that you weren't meant to do. But it being now I'm educated to it, and we see the result of it. It makes us change at home. And when you look at your house, and I drive friends crazy because you're going around to friends' houses and you'll be looking.
You look at everything very differently, don't you?
Where's your smoke alarm? Is that on? Is that on?
Do you do that when you go on holiday? When you stay in a hotel?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do. It sounds silly, you know. I become very conscious of my surroundings. I'm like, how am I going to get out of here?
How would I get out? That's always my first thought. How would I get out?
Can I have a room as close as possible to the staircase if I'm in a massive long corridor? Just the small things like that.
When you're in a restaurant, when you're in a cinema, where are the exits? So it's you can take the boy out of the fire service or the girl out of the fire service. You can't take the fire service out of the person.
Absolutely.
So that education is key. Being aware. The top advice I would sort of give to people on the podcast as a real snapshot is just making that plan. Exactly as you identified there, that incident's happened, and where are the keys? Have I left things on the stairs? where are my children sleeping, and it being chaos and running around, where if you've got that plan, when you go to bed at night...
Talk about making a plan with children as well, and
Yeah.
involve the family. Don't try to do it yourself, involve
No,
the family.
let them know, and that's a really important thing. I think as a culture, we don't tend to talk about things like funerals and death, but
it's taboo, isn't it?
it's
We
taboo.
don't talk
It's a
about
taboo subject.
Why?
But
It happens.
But we promote sitting round the table at dinner time and talking about what do we do if the smoke alarm goes off.
Yeah.
We promote pressing the smoke alarm, let the children hear it.
Yeah.
So they know what it sounds like.
It's exciting for them as well. And it makes them respond to it.
Because the smoke alarm at school is very different than what it is at home. And they practice what to do at school.
Yeah.
At primary school, children are practicing what to do if that smoke alarm goes off.
And people think, oh, that's a school thing. No, it's not. It's a life tool. It's an
life
education tool
thing.
for them to survive.
And we do it in the workplace as well.
We do it in the workplace.
Fire drills at work.
We do fire drills, and then we get into our homes, and our children are used to, I know what to do at school. I know what to do at work.
I follow Mrs. So-and-so. I follow the head
well,
teacher.
Mrs. So-and-so's not at home.
Yeah.
There's not a nice fire door and a green exit sign and a playground to go and stand in. It's very different. So have that conversation.
Yeah.
Let them hear the alarm. Have the conversation. If that alarm goes off, you come out of your bedrooms onto the landing. We come and get you. We go as a family unit. We go downstairs, knowing where the key is.
Yeah.
So when you lock that door at night time, you know where that key is.
Yeah.
Now, what we recommend is that it's in a safe place close to the front door.
Yeah.
Now, if you lock your front door and put the key in the kitchen, in a kitchen drawer, and then in the middle of the night there's an incident in the kitchen, and the fire's there, you've locked yourself in that house.
Yeah.
So having the key near the exit, which is not on view to everybody. I don't expect someone to knock on the door and you open your door and there's your key hanging on the wall.
No.
But you know where it is. In an emergency, you can get that key quickly. You can get yourself outside.
So we've spoken about sort of a perfect scenario, if you will, there. The smoke alarm's gone off. We've spoken about from everybody knows the plan. So this is how we're going to get out. Now let's imagine human error comes into play, because it always does. Something's gone wrong. You know, Dad forgot to put, or Mum forgot to put the smoke alarm up when they changed it the other day. So I can smell something in the middle of the night, and I step out into my corridor, and smoke is full in the hallway. Yeah. Shall I just go running through it? Shall I? Because I need to get out, right?
We talk about having a backup plan as well.
Right.
So
okay.
Go back into your bedroom and speak to all of your family members about what to do if that situation happens. Yeah. Close your bedroom door, put pillows down at the door so smoke can't come into the room.
Okay.
Go to the window, open it, get fresh air in, shout for help. And at that point, from your mobile phone, so I'll always advise people to keep a phone in the bedroom for this exact reason. Ring 999, and
it doesn't need to be on during the night. You know, it doesn't.
No,
it just needs to be there, able for you to access it.
Yeah, so you can make that emergency call and say, I can smell smoke.
Yeah.
I think my house is on fire. I'm in the back bedroom. There are 3 people.
Yeah. Stay on the line and let people know where you are.
And
Don't try and go out and tackle it yourself.
And the operator would run through all that again.
Yeah.
The door,
we've got some fantastic team members.
Operation team are amazing. And they stay on the phone with you. They will talk that all through. Exactly like you said, 2 or 3 breaths of that smoke and you're unconscious.
That's
so if you go downstairs trying to investigate and then you fall unconscious, now your other family members thinking, well, they went downstairs, they've not come back up. Should I go down and look for them? Do I leave the children here? Do I take the children with me?
It's that domino effect of catastrophe.
And people panic.
People panic.
These are the case studies that we read in the fire service of why 4 people died.
Yeah, and if we follow that plan B, so plan A is clear exit route, know where the key is, outside, really, really quickly. And as Sophie said, if the doors are shut downstairs, ample amount of time to get out.
Perfect.
Plan B, everybody in that same room.
Yeah.
Don't go and investigate. There's thick smoke I can smell burning. I'm going to get everybody in one room.
We're not asking you to leave your children in the bed.
No.
Get your children, get your family members.
Stick together.
Get the door closed, get it blocked. Window open, stay nice and low, ring 999. Now, for you as a firefighter, you're on your way to that address and controller updating you. We've got 4 people on the first floor, front bedroom. Brilliant.
I know where
as
that is.
soon as we arrive, we know exactly what we're doing.
I'm not going to mess about. I'm not going to seek information for 10 minutes trying to figure it all out myself. These people have taken control. I know where they are. I can I can see them right there. They are in the bedroom, ladder, breathing apparatus team, whatever the situation may be, and they'll be out.
If you get a call saying, well, I'm upstairs in the bedroom.
Yeah.
My husband went downstairs. I don't know where he is. One of my kids has climbed out the bathroom window.
Yeah.
Now when you arrive, you've got to look at that property and think, well, we've potentially got person one downstairs, maybe two upstairs.
But also for firefighters, person one might have got out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We don't know where they might have gone to the neighbours. Sometimes we'll go to an incident where the children don't know. We could spend an hour, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, ages looking for people. And we'll do that. We will always do that. But they were next door neighbours. Yeah. They weren't even there.
They weren't even there.
People weren't sure how to get their family together because they hadn't put that plan in place.
Having that plan is so important, and everyone knowing what they're doing when that happens, that it's not, we will panic, the adrenaline will spike, but you follow that plan and you'll be safe. You're out, you know that you're okay.
Now, Sophie, let's flip that script again, because we've looked at 2 scenarios, plan A, plan B. Now, these are for functioning people. These are for people that can hear what's going on. These are people that can respond to that smoke alarm. There may be people who are listening who know deaf members of the community, and they go, well, how's a smoke alarm going to help them?
Yeah.
But we've come up with ways to get around that, haven't we?
Yeah, so we have adapted smoke alarms. So there's a vibrating pad that goes under the pillow.
Okay.
So when the smoke alarm is activated, it sends a wireless signal to the bedside unit with a vibrating pad under the pillow, and that vibrates. So the person will be alerted of the fire from the vibration as opposed to the sound of the smoke alarm.
Isn't there a flashing light as well?
Yeah, some have a strobe light. There's lots of different.
So it's tapping into those other senses.
Yeah.
To notify the person that there's an emergency.
That's it. There are pager systems in place as well, so they can wear pagers. But the one that the fire service supply has the strobe light, the vibrating pad that goes under the pillow, and then that's when I go in and educate people about texting 999.
Yeah.
You know, all the same messages, but for them it's just a slightly different way.
But people haven't got to wait until it gets to, oh, mum's hard of hearing, but she's not deaf. You know, she's not deaf. She can hear a little bit. They haven't got to wait until it gets to a dire point, because there will be people listening that think, you know what, mum, dad, Jeff, Susan next door, they're not really with it anymore. They can't really hear, you know. So how do they get in contact?
So they can make a referral to us by looking on our website and going to contact us and request a home safety check, and then that's when we'll go out. But we do an assessment. Just because they might be a bit deaf, it doesn't mean that they will be entitled to one of these alarms. We have to go out and we do an assessment, but actually we do more than that. So we can provide that alarm for that person, but we identify that person, actually, they might not be able to hear a smoke alarm, but can they hear the front door? Can they hear their telephone? Can they hear the TV? And we'll sit and we'll chat with them and ask them what their
Again, we go to that holistic view.
Yeah.
What else is going on here?
And then we can make a referral onto First Contact in the county or Action Deafness in the city. Yeah. And then they'll get more help and advice and support for their deafness. So we've gone in, we've identified the fire service, the fire risk, but then we've gone on and provided more.
That's incredible. Support. I mean, I hope people have heard some of the messages there, and they've really been able to understand the different ways that the fire service are getting creative and finding different ways to add value to people's lives. And it all just flows straight into that, you know, safer people, safer places, where we're creating an environment almost detached from the fire service and empowering people to the position where they never need to reach out for that support. So as a final one, if people have heard something today where they want to capture that nugget and find a way to add that value to somebody else's life, what's the best way for them to get in contact, Mike?
So if we go on to Leicestershire Fire and Rescue's website, there's a referral form there that you can do online. If you're not comfortable with that, the contact telephone number is also on there, so you can give them a call and they'll take that information over the telephone and make that referral process for us.
Fantastic, guys. Thank you very much for coming on the show, and thank you for sharing some of those really powerful messages to help the community during this challenging time.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks for checking out the Firefighters Podcast this week. Make sure you check out the YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram pages, keeping yourself up to date with the latest podcast as it comes out. We'll see you guys soon.